Mischief. 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 Mischief.
Hey friends, we are here today on a picnic because that's what crazy people do in January. And I have Ryan with me. We're going to talk a little bit about sharing a meal the way a lot of people do is outdoors, al fresco. And I wanted to share this meal with Ryan and Greg because we're going to talk a little bit about the community garden, which some people know about, some people don't.
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit to kind of give us a backstory as you take a really big bite of food.
Yeah.
Kind of your vision, the dream, like why did you want to pursue a community garden?
Yeah. So we have a lot of space.
Yeah.
And so that was one part of it, was just that we have land that we could put something on and might be a little more affordable than a building. But the real thing, real inspiration for it primarily came from the Fresh Expressions movement in the church, which I did some training with in the spring of last year and fall of last year a little bit. The idea of the Fresh Expressions movement is how we can use the church as it is right now to be a welcoming space for people who maybe are burnt on church or aren't interested in traditional church. And so I know, as we've talked about many times, quite a few people who, like me, may be burnt on church, not so interested in going to a regular Sunday service, but very much interested in helping their community and finding community and finding meaning in the community. And I've got a lot of buddies who like to put stuff in the ground, and so it seems like a logical way to connect with people who aren't already a part of our church.
All right.
Yeah.
We are out here in the church scout pavilion, and we have in our eye line, and our sight line, the area for the community garden. And we're talking during Lent about the Feast of the Bible. One of the feasts is the Feast of Tabernacles. And it's a remembrance of the time when the Jewish people had to rely on God. And it's also a time that when Jewish people today celebrate it, they build a tent or a tabernacle in their backyard where they enjoy feasts and meals outside. If you've ever been blessed to be able to be invited to one of those, highly recommend because they're really, really fun. But it is a shared sense of community around the idea of relying on God. And one of the things that we look at when we look at relying on God is our food.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't always think about where our food comes from and what that process is like. And when we say grace before a meal, we're thanks God for the food, which is right. That's not wrong. But there are so many steps in between. So can you walk us through what like your mindset is around that?
Yeah. A great and large question. So I feel that we are unique in history in terms of how alienated we are from the food that we eat. And what I mean by that is we don't usually know where it's come from at all. And oftentimes it's come from multiple places. We eat many processed foods. And so we don't, not only do we not know where it's been manufactured and necessarily the standard it's been manufactured up to, we don't even know where the source ingredients were from. And that's not inherently a bad thing, but there is, in the kind of cultural moment we're having, a lot of reaction to that. And one way to be confident about where your food comes from is to see it in the ground yourself. And I think that is going, the desire for unalienated connection to one's food is going to be a trend for the next while in the culture. And to take away from to step away from like the common sense about food that we're kind of having this moment, there are also, I think, expert concerns about our food supply system and its resiliency. We rely on a lot of monocultures and that is a dangerous thing. One unprepared for unforeseen blight could, if any of us have seen Interstellar, that's probably a hyperbolic version of what could happen. But it's a great movie. Spectacular movie. Horrifying. you know?
Yeah, Christopher Nolan for you.
Exactly, but I don't think an unreasonable one. I don't think we all need to be running to the grocery store and necessarily be ripping up our backyards and making huge garden beds in them, even though I am doing that personally. But increasing our awareness of where our food comes from, learning how to produce our own food, these are all things that help us build a sense of community, but also build in resiliency should the systems we currently rely on be tested or face difficulty. If I know that, oh, well, I've got potatoes growing in the backyard, that's a confidence I have. In addition to taking away, this is the just pure like materialist. I need the calories to whatever, take all of that away. The beauty of being able to grow your own food and see it grow. I'm still very much a novice gardener. I've only been doing it for a single year, and I was very much a chaos gardener last year. I did not know what I was doing at all.
I've been a chaos gardener for about 30 years.
Right, and I suspect I shall remain as such. But it's really great to be in the dirt and get to know the little microbiome that's right outside your door. We're connected to all of that, whether we acknowledge it or not. I think
No, that was excellent.
I'm not familiar with gardening, but I'm familiar with chaos. So I feel
There you go. There you go. So the Feast of Tabernacles is a celebration of abundance.
Mhm.
Greg, I want to ask you, what are some ways that you see abundance in your life?
I think that kind of changes, from era to era. But as I continue to get older, abundance for me, I think I used to think that abundance meant having more of.
Right?
I actually think of abundance as having less of. I think that
Having just enough.
Not having too much, because if you have too much stuff, too much things, you're basically kind of cutting off that part of your brain that tells you to just kind of sit and just kind of
Be still and
be
know
still.
that.
And yeah, exactly. And we can't really do that if we're too connected to all of our things. I wouldn't call myself a minimalist, at least not yet, but I would say that my journey of trying to find abundance right now is just trying to be more still with myself, more still with my spirituality, whatever shape that takes at any given time.
Right.
And just, trying to find more peace in the things that God has given me, not the things that I found for myself.
The biblical principle of having abundance in a harvest.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, say a little bit about what the possibilities could be should we have an abundance here. What then happens?
Right. We are all hoping, all of us that are invested in this project, that there will be several abundances, an abundance of community, putting the community in community garden. It would be a dream for us to be producing enough that we could supply some for our Wednesday night suppers and also be able to share produce with the community, whether that's directly to people who are just asking for it when they walk up, which would be a dream for me. I would love to walk up. There go all my chips. There you go, bloopers, folks.
Now it'll be in the makeup.
Yeah, right. Right.
I am rethinking food and a podcast. Every meal.
Live. Only how many to go? 6, 7?
There were many moments where food has been in my thinking.
But yeah, being able to share food with our neighbors,
Yeah.
which is, as we've highlighted over the course of this meal, sharing a meal with somebody is an excellent way to build a community.
What, so Greg, you've never gardened.
No.
Do you have plants?
No.
No.
I mean, my in-laws do have plants and they grow herbs. My mom likes to garden. My grandma likes to garden.
Not been your calling yet.
No.
Okay.
But what I definitely do is I have like the black thumb, not the
Yeah.
green thumb. Everything dies, and but
I mean, everything dies eventually anyway.
true,
So
true.
don't feel
It's
too
just sad.
Don't blame yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. But what I definitely like to do is to surround myself with people who can. Like,
Mm.
like I'm not a butcher, but I'm going to prefer to get my meat from a butcher because I know it's not going to be processed like it is in the stores. I'm not there yet,
Right.
but I have in the past been very close to farms and got my meat from there in bulk in the past, and I'd like to do it again. I want to do the same thing for gardening, but I do want to eventually maybe try to do something like that because, like what you're talking about self-sufficiency and trying to, you know, grow things yourself. I would love to be able to feel more self-sufficient on whatever property I end up owning. That's the other thing, I don't own a property.
Right.
You know.
And yeah, makes it a little bit tricky. What so chaotic gardener. What lessons have you learned already?
Spacing is really important.
Spacing.
Spacing is really important. Sometimes tomato plant's been kind of chilling, and then all of a sudden it just shoots up. I was using the example of a tomato about what I've learned, and that I had too many tomatoes in my garden last year, which was great because for a while I was like, every time I went out, I had a huge bowl full of like over 100 tomatoes, which was incredible. Exactly, yeah. Every Sunday I was bringing in a bowl of tomatoes, and ladies were taking the beef sticks. It was great. And then I got blight on the tomatoes because they were in there tight, and I was able to stop it for a few of them and salvage a few of the plants. But it happened while we were gone. We were on a trip, and it happened that fast. So it really is a discipline to do it effectively.
There was a movement at the beginning of the last century known as the Diggers in the UK, and their spiritual practice was communal gardening. And they saw spiritual benefits for gardening together, and how it brought people together and allowed people to really live out the book of Acts, where they gathered together communally and they broke bread together and they shared with one another. They did that through gardening. And that spiritual practice really turned into a greater sense of community. Now, I've never been a part of a community garden. I've been at churches that had them, and but I, at that time, had young kids. Just didn't have the time to garden. But I will say that there is a different type of community that I think can happen. What do you see as a possible outcome of a community garden, and what that community looks like versus other forms of community that we might think of?
I'm going to tangent just a little bit to try and answer the question. So you and I have talked about a lot lately the feeling of purposelessness that I think is endemic to the whole culture, but particularly amongst millennials and down. And connected to that is the feeling that one's choices don't matter. And we're Wesleyans. We don't believe that. We are proud Armenians. We believe our choices matter. We believe in our own will as a thing.
It is.
Exactly. And gardening is a demonstration of that will made manifest. Something you did, not of your own power and not through anything that I didn't create the seed that turns into the plant, right? That came from creation, which is to say it came from the powers above us. But by choosing to plant it and planting it with other people, we start to see and reap the benefits of our labor in a way that maybe we don't so much in the culture right now. So I would hope that it would foster a sense of community action and the capacity for community action. A germ of the idea that we can get together and do things that are hard, but productive and beautiful and good for us. And we can choose to do that. We don't actually just have to go with the way of the world, which says you cookie cutter into this track and you blinders on and you whatever.
Yeah. Part of doing mission work is see where God's at work and go and meet God there. And what I love about the community garden is that's the fabric of creation. And we are literally putting our hands in the fabric of creation and working with God instead of trying to feed people through canned good collection, which is needed.
Important.
Very important. But it's just another way. I think
It's an added resiliency.
Yeah.
I'm sounding like a doomsday prepper, and I'm not a doomsday prepper, really. But what happens if there's a shortage of canned goods? Right. That's not just going to impact people at the bottom of our society. It's not just going to impact the poor. It's going to reverberate all the way up.
Yeah.
We're all human beings.
Yeah.
And we all face the same challenges. And it is arrogant and foolish of us, I would argue, to forget that. It's important for us to remember it, and it's important for us to endeavor to solve our social ills together by any means necessary.
I think we could learn from some of the doomsday prepper mindset. I think we need to be that.
Oh, okay.
But, I mean, so just a quick background. I worked at a doomsday prep store for a while.
Oh, that's right.
That's crazy.
Yes, I did. And surprisingly, I will say they were very, very protective of me. So but that's a conversation for another day. Like, they were just like really, really kind people, even though their politics did not align with mine. We got along. I want to see more of that in this world. That's what I want to see more of.
Yeah.
But I did learn a lot from them in terms of, proactivity, and wanting to be like, there's a stereotype. It's not like they all think the world's going to end tomorrow, but it's just more about being prepared.
Right.
And I think that we can take some of that, not out of fear, right?
Right.
Like the typical mindset, but more so out of self-fulfillment and then connection to community and things that we were just talking about. I think that we could use some of those tools that are kind of taught from that world and kind of use it for a different reason, a different repurpose some of that.
And look, I mean, for many people, doomsday has already come.
Yeah.
People that are on the earth right now are experiencing an Armageddon of their own.
Exactly.
Whether that's somebody down the street or somebody across the pond, or a different pond.
Right. Absolutely.
We're fooling ourselves if we think that it couldn't happen to us. Again, whether that's just a particular small way or at a grand scale. Cooperation and proactivity are absolutely ways that we can buttress ourselves against that we can prepare ourselves for the worst and hope for the best at the same time. And the net will, what's the worst case scenario? If we covered this whole plot with fruit trees and berry bushes and annual gardens and pollinator beds and no apocalypse of the kind that we expect, in the oftentimes in the Christian tradition comes. And it turns out we didn't need that. Okay. Well, didn't we need it in some way? Probably in our hearts. At the risk of being like cheesy and dorky. I mean, it's we create a beautiful, together we come together and learn that together we have the capacity to create beautiful, important, and meaningful structures in our life and in our society. We don't just have to rely on ones that are produced for us. We can trust each other and the Holy Ghost to do cool stuff. That's a powerful thing to imagine.
It's a good soundbite.
It's a great sound.
Yeah. So one last thing I want to circle back to the Feast of Tabernacles. It is a celebration of abundance, a celebration of community, but it's also a way to have gratitude for both of those things. What are ways that you show gratitude around your meals or your food?
I say thanks before I eat privately to myself. I'm gonna get in trouble. I usually don't bless my food before I eat it in the traditional sense that everybody closes their eyes and bows their head.
Yeah.
But I just kind of...
Which is not actually biblical.
What?
Yeah,
Hold on.
I know.
Wait a minute.
It's not. Yeah.
Giving
that's what I
thanks is giving thanks for your
Yes.
food is and gratitude,
Yes.
but blessing your food, God has already done the blessing.
Yeah.
What about you? Gratitude for your food.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that we all lose sight in, especially, because of how quick and easy food can be acquired today, which will be discussed in another episode. But I think that it is important to try to find ways that we can. I think for me, when I do think about it, which I will be very honest, it's not all the time. I see food and I'm like, get in my belly.
Yep.
But
Another great stuff.
but I think that like in those times where it's like, for example, it's like a family gathering or we're all together or it's like, holidays and things like that, I think my way of doing it is just making sure that everybody feels like, because usually in those circumstances I'm hosting it. And so just to make sure that everybody feels connected and loved, and like that's my way of doing it, is like if I'm providing a meal, then I need to be providing more than just a meal.
Felt.
Yeah.
I also do not say a traditional type of a blessing every meal that I have. I will often pause, internally give thanks. But I'm also called upon often, as you can imagine, to offer a blessing over meals. And I was very uncomfortable at first doing that because a lot of times when I'm asked to do that, it's not at church and I don't know who's in the room and I don't feel like I want to impress my beliefs on someone else. So I always say, I'm going to pray in my tradition and I want to invite you to pray in yours.
Oh, that's great.
And because even though there may be people who may not believe, the larger percentage do believe in some form of prayer or meditation. And so that is a type that they can pause. And I usually, not all the time, but usually say something along the lines of, bless and thank anyone who had anything to do with getting the food to the table. And that helps me to put a mindset around farm to table in whatever ways that looks, even if it's highly processed.
Of course.
It started somewhere. Well, thank you guys for joining me. And we had Reubens, and they were quite
They
good.
were scrumptious.
They're very
Very,
good.
very good. I do love me a good Reuben.
They slap
Yeah.
hard.
So when you said, it's like, what kind of sandwich do you want? And I was like, what are you getting?
Yeah.
And then I wanted to know what kind of thing we're supposed to talk about. Talk about like paninis, or is it talking about like, and she said, well, we're getting Reuben. I was like, that.
Yeah, you said Cuban or Reuben, and I was like, oh, I gotta have a Reuben.
I love them both.
I love them both too.
I love the sando.
Good stuff. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Go get yourself a sandwich.
Put something in the ground.
Yes.
Mischief. 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 Mischief.